Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I'm Peter, that is Tim, and we talk about horror movies. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about a horror movie that came out late 2016. It's called It Watches. I wish I wasn't. Now, normally we would start spoiler-free, and I will give you a couple of sentences of spoiler-free. That review, that short review being, it is absolute garbage. Don't watch it. Don't do it to yourself. Run for the hills. But maybe watch us tear it apart first with spoilers, because you shouldn't care. It's terrible.
It is a garbage film. There really is no point in watching it. Not even like in a, hey, I want to watch something that's terrible and make fun of it. It's not even good for that.
No, it's dull, it's boring, nothing. It feels like a really bad student movie. I'll put it in perspective for everyone. This is the first movie in the... We've done over 100 of these now, Tim, if you can believe that. Over 100 movies. Mm-hmm. This is the first one. Tim watched this yesterday and I watched it today. Tim watched it before me. Mm-hmm. 5 minutes into this film, this is the first time in the history of this show that, well, when I started watching the film, I messaged Tim and said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And my only solace after watching it was knowing that you'd have to watch it. At least, I'm not
gonna lie, Tim. About 10 minutes in, I was thinking, can I fake an injury and we can just, take the week off? That I'd considered that possibility.
I sprained my eyeballs. I can't watch the rest of this.
I made it more believable than that. I said, I have to go to the eye doctor, go to the opticians. They had to put drops in my eyes. I can't, everything's blurry. I can't see anything for the rest of the day. Tough. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Can we do it tomorrow? I was like, sure, but we've got a whole other day. We may as well do another film now, since you know it's terrible.
Do you want to just really get right into spoilers, seeing as how, there...
Well, we're going to go through it in order, but we're not going to give a midway spoiler warning. We're just going to give you a spoiler warning just now, if you for some reason care, but you shouldn't. Trust me, It is diabolical. I can't believe I watched this.
So, now, Pete, do you want to know my absolute, very first thought watching this? Let's say about 30 seconds, a minute into it.
Are we still in the title sequence?
Yes, and the first thing I thought, and I don't know if you had something similar, but I was like, wait, is this Birdemic? This this opening sequence is so long and pointless and boring of just people driving. I was like, if this is either, I don't know if this dude was inspired by Birdemic.
It's following one car going up the hills in, I think, LA, but I could be, there's nothing to really tell you.
Yeah, and I assumed it was the fancier parts of the Hollywood Hills or something, but it's just this car going up all these sort of this bendy up the hill kind of road. And I had two thoughts during this opening title sequence. One is that for a 79-minute film, this opening title sequence is really padded and lasting a long time. Yeah. The other one, and this is a more serious complaint, if you can believe it, is it was giving me a headache. The footage... No, I mean this in a genuine way. I'm not saying it was giving me a headache because it was bad in that sense. It was giving me a headache because I don't think they had a helicopter, because it's all aerial shots of this going on, right? And it kept panning from the bushes and the general, foliage into the road. It kept doing that. It kept, tilting from there, panning from there, depending where the camera was starting. And the footage was literally giving me a headache. I think it was a really crap camera on a drone, and it was very unstable and very, it's not as if it was going into a helicopter. In a helicopter, you still got a cameraman with either a steady cam of some kind, or a tripod, or whatever, a harness, something to anchor it and give you a steady shot. Whereas this was just jittery, and the motion blur was terrible. It was the shutter speed was all wrong. Just on a technical level, this footage was making me feel nauseous. And it would have just been like whatever if it was just like 10-15 seconds, but it goes on so long.
It goes on for a good couple of minutes. And then the show I love as well. So we go through all of the titles, we go through all the credits, the names, all your main credits usually get with the director of photography. By the shame on him, we'll get to that bastard in due course. And everyone else that you get ends with the director, as it always does. Goes through all those names, finishes on the director, and then it cuts to inside the car for dialogue. You couldn't have done this dialogue as the titles played. You had to finish your titles and then cut into the car.
It was baffling.
That's strike 4 by this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get into it as we go along, but this isn't a problem just in the beginning. This is a problem throughout the whole movie. Like you said, it feels like a student film, and just the way everything is shot, it seems like they're trying to make the shots like too interesting, because the whole movie is filled with all these like panning and tilting and everything. Like the camera always seems like it's so busy.
It was someone who doesn't know how to direct a movie trying to emulate what directing a movie is. That's what it felt like. And it also feels like there's like maybe a 15-20 minute story that's stretched out to the entire runtime, if that.
Yeah.
So
we finally get to the first scene, which is a friend dropping off his other friend at this house.
Yeah, Andre's the main character. He's the one being dropped off at the house.
Now, this was probably my second thought into the movie. During this whole scene where they're in front of the driveway talking, I was just like, wow, that is a really busy street.
It is a really busy street. It makes it really feel like they didn't have much of a choice. This is the kind of thing that leads into the whole movie. It feels like they knew someone with a house that would let them film.
Yeah.
Because the entire movie, once they get out of that car, takes place at this house. At one point in the film, Andre's gone on a date, and he's getting ready for his date. He's putting his gel in the hair. He's getting all done up. He's like, oh, I'm going on a date, and he's like singing about it. And I thought, oh, great, we're going to leave the house. And he answers the door, and she comes in with takeout food. I'm like, oh, so we're just staying in the house then, are we? For the duration of the runtime.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I love a bottle movie, I do. But see, when you watch something of this quality and it's filmed in such a dull way, and we'll get into all the things that are wrong with it. When you watch something of this quality, it becomes very clear that the only reason why they're in the house is because they couldn't go anywhere else. It wasn't a choice. Yeah. It wasn't we want to make a bottle movie. It was, we have access to nowhere else to shoot.
Yeah, and the reason why I brought that up is just because it's something I never think about in other movies, but when you do start to think about it, it's very distracting, and it's just so obvious that you see so many cars passing along, and it's like, oh yeah, these are obviously people filming a movie because they just filmed whatever, like most movies would probably be closed off, or I don't know, you just wouldn't face the street. But like it's just stuff like that is just so distracting.
Yeah, it was unnaturally busy. It didn't feel like it should be a busy road as well. It's meant to be like just this.
Well, did you? Of course, because we just spent 5 minutes of just them like driving and this like secluded.
Yeah, because
area.
That entire 3 minutes up that hill, I think there was at one point a motorbike past them, but other than that, there was no other vehicles. And then they get to the house, and it's like the cars are all going really slow because there's so much traffic. That's how busy the street is at that point. Jesus.
And then I guess we should probably talk about the actors.
Yeah, as soon as these two open their mouths, oh dear.
You know what type of movie you're in for.
You're in for a movie where clearly no one involved actually has any experience, or I mean, maybe it's a bit mean to say. I mean, for all I know, like they could have hired a proper like production manager or something. I don't know, probably not. But
well, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah, they just weren't good actors, or maybe they are good actors, but not like maybe they're not being directed well or something, or if they're too new.
Tim, this is not good actors being poorly directed. This was bad actors. Scratch that. Terrible actors being poorly directed.
It feels very. I don't know, very very grabby. Like I don't know, like if this person really wants to be an actor, but this is like the first time they ever tried it. You know what I mean? Like
there's an element of that. There's also an element of, oh, let's make him feel like a normal, cool guy, and we'll get into a lot of his stupid inane dialogue. He also doesn't really have a character. Andre, our main character, doesn't really have a character. He's just generic dude.
Yeah, I couldn't really get a read if he was like, you know, kind of like, if he's supposed to be like a frat boy kind of dude, because there are times that he's like, yeah, let's smoke. All right, some beers. Let's do this. But then there are also times like where it seems like, oh, he's supposed to be kind of like, you know, the normal, like, you know, kind of average guy that we're supposed to relate to or something. I don't know. I couldn't really get a great read on him.
Yeah, every word that comes out of his mouth and any of the other actors who pop up is terrible. Although, shockingly, he's not the worst actor in the movie.
True.
We'll get to Guy when we get to Guy. But Andre, he's still terrible, though. And what worse is that he's terrible, and then his friend drops him off, drives away, and he comes into the house.
Oh. I'm just going to stop you for a second, because I have to ask. I
feel this is going to happen a lot throughout this time, so go ahead.
Now, let me try to get this straight, because I feel like I spaced out of this movie so many times that I don't know if I have a great handle on the plot, but...
What plot? This is like 10 minutes of plot.
So his friend was supposed to watch this house for someone else, but he can't because he's working on a reality TV show.
Oh yeah, that's. Do you know what? Because the ending reveals so much stuff, which we'll get to, it never even. I'd forgotten about my confusion at the start of the movie. You're right, because his friend explains to him, "Oh, the guy who owns the house, he'll never know it was you instead of me that was living here."
I don't understand though. Like, why does is he house sitting? And if so, like, why do you need someone at the house?
Yeah.
Like,
so we got from
and
that
it also
conversation.
seemed like it was a favor to his friend. Like his friend just had an accident. Like this would be good for him.
Well, yeah. Right. I don't even have a problem with this. Right. I don't even have a problem with this part of it. Right. So at this point, you just, if you want to go along with it, you go along with the idea that his friend is supposed to house sit for someone else, but he can't. So he's asked his buddy Andre, and Andre, by the way, was in an accident recently and has amnesia, which I thought was like a few weeks ago, but as the movie goes on, you kind of realise it had to have been just there. Like, it had to have just gotten out of the hospital. So, which is a weird thing to ask Andre when he's just at the hospital, by the way, can you come stay in this weird guy's house?
But it seemed like he is doing like a favor to him, like, oh, like this will help you after your accident. But it's like, oh, if you just had amnesia, the least thing you probably want is like a strange, unfamiliar.
But you know what the stupid thing is, Tim, is the twist at the end kind of nullifies all this.
True.
But the problem I had at the start, though, wasn't so much the convoluted, why is he going to the house? It was convoluted, don't get me wrong, I'm not disagreeing with you, it was, but I could get over that. The problem I had is he then brings up this weird bit of exposition. Oh, I'm doing this reality TV show where we put someone in a house and we set up a bunch of cameras and we scare the shit out of them. And I'm like, okay, are you telegraphing the twist here or what? And at one point in the house, you know, when he's wandering about, we see all these little security cameras and I'm like, so is this just the game show? And at a couple of points, Andre thinks he might be on the game show, but that's pretty much all that ever comes from it. But that in particular feels very weird, given the end of the movie. Like, why have this bit of weird extra, oh, I do this game show where we scare people in a house? I don't get it.
No idea.
Anyway, so he drops off Andre, and Andre comes in the house, and then proceeds about 30 minutes, I think, of Andre wandering, just looking around the house with his camera from about 15 years ago. So it's a small DV camera. Thing's ancient, and he's recording a
as
video
if it
diary.
like couldn't. Yeah, as if it couldn't get anywhere. So I was like, oh great, found footage. Like the last thing this movie was making or was missing for me to completely hate it.
But because he sits down at a table in the main sort of area in the house, and he records a video diary. He's like, oh, if I make a video diary, I'll remember stuff from my amnesia. You know, my amnesia might get help from documenting what I'm doing. And I'm like, amnesia. I wonder what the twist ending of this is going to be. And
this might be like the earliest I've ever guessed a movie's ending.
I know. I mean, you're not really sure quite yet because like you don't know if there's going to be supernatural things coming in. If it was, it'd be different. But if it's going one route, then there's definitely one ending it's going to have, and it did go that route, and yeah, so.
And boy, when we get there, man, it was frustrating waiting for that reveal.
Because they tease it out for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So he sits down and makes a video diary entry, and exposition, terrible acting, wooden stuff. You don't buy a word out of his mouth. And then he says, I'm going to make another video. I'm like, oh, another one? Yeah, I'm going to make it for my grandma. I can't make her birthday, so I'm going to do a little video for her. So he makes a little video just saying, hey, grandma, I was in an accident, got a bit of amnesia. Can't make it, but I thought I'd send you a video. So, sure. I mean, does he mean he's going to send the tape? Because again, like, it is 2017 or 2016 maybe at the time the movie came out. Like, you could just upload it to YouTube or something, send it that way, Facebook it.
I guess.
Whatever you want to do. It feels. Also, he doesn't appear to have a cell phone in his possession.
Yeah.
Nor does anyone else in the movie, for that matter.
Well, he does have one later. It's just that it's low on battery and he can't find his charger.
Is that? Oh, right, okay.
There's a big.
This is
him like trying to find his charger.
This is a small plot point I'd forgotten about.
Yeah.
It. You're right. Oh dear. Because at one point he finds a USB stick and he's looking at it, and I'm like, huh. I almost thought this was set in the past, given how much we're using this DV camera.
Yeah.
And he's like staring at it as if it's this like he doesn't understand what it is. What is this newfangled technology? Oh. But so after he makes this message, we then proceed to follow him, walk around the house. He's constantly recording for some reason. He'll sometimes say a couple of things into the camera, but then he'll just keep wandering around holding the camera.
Now, I do want to talk real quick about the scene. It's real quick, but where he finds the marijuana.
Like a big box full of drugs, yeah. Because it wasn't just that. There was like a whole it was like organized into different types of narcotics. Yeah. It was like
I think this was supposed to be a joke. I'm not sure, but like they do like a bunch of quick cuts of him like reading all the different names of the weed, and I don't know, it just really bugged me. Like, we really need to get over this like hacky joke of like, oh, weed has, funny different names. Like, it's and the people just reading these like crazy names are not funny.
The whole thing was just stupid. It was especially the way he found that, and he found the beer in the fridge. He was like, oh great, my weekend. So I was like, what, this?
Yeah. Like, what like weirdo like talks like that to themselves? Yeah, like, even if you are gonna do that, like, you don't go like, oh boy, let's do it.
And the whole thing is just because up to this point there's still no really a character. There's still no plot really started yet, other than like we see while he's recording the video for the grandma, because there's all these like mannequins with shoots over them in the house for some reason, and I'll be saying that a lot for some reason, and one of them turns around behind him. He doesn't see it, but we see it on the camera. Sure. But this is kind of the problem. Actually, I've not even spoken about the lighting yet, and I should talk about this because this is something that it was noticeable outside to a point, but obviously outside in daylight, it's not as. It still has that shitty shot on video look to it. It doesn't look like shot on film. It doesn't look like the person who lit this movie knows how to light a film. Because when it comes inside, it's got that thing where all the windows are like overexposed, like it's just bright white light.
Yeah.
To the point until later on, there's a few scenes later where it confirmed there was actually outside, but I actually thought it was a set, and the reason why it was all blown out in white is because they didn't have anything outside to show, so it was just like hide it by blasting light into the window. But anyway, so he walks around for forever, going into every room and commenting on things, commenting on the beds, it goes on forever. Nothing happens. It is atrocious.
And like you said, this is not a long movie. Like,
it's not. But this takes like 25-30 minutes of him just. If he eventually finds the room with the big TV, and he puts on the TV, and there's like news. There's a news report on about some female bodies being found from a serial killer. I'm like, oh, I wonder where this is going. Oh dear. So this all happens, and then you're right. He's got a cell phone because he gets a call.
Yeah. He
gets a call, and he arranges a date with Rachel, and he gets all excited, and this is where we get a nice scene of him. Yeah, it cuts to a shot of a command center with all the security cameras. like on all these monitors, and we see that he's on one of them showering, and then he comes out and he does his hair, and he's talking about being on a date and whatnot.
Which, I mean, just you never get a sense of like the relationship between like any of the few characters in the movie, and like I couldn't tell if this was like their first date or if they've been going out for 2 years. Like, it felt like very...
Again, given the ending of the movie, I'll say it's not been a long relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
They've been out at least once before because she references a previous date. That's as much we can say. But she comes in, they joke around a little bit, and he tells her about the amnesia or whatever. And he doesn't have his... He had like a sling on for the first half of the movie, and then as soon as we get to this date, the sling's gone, and he just has a little wristband, one of the wrist kind of things you get.
Just like a cast? I don't know.
No, it's not a cast. It's just one of those ones you slip on. It's like a...
I don't know the name.
I don't know what the technical term is for it. You know what it is if you've seen it.
Yeah.
But he's got one of them on now. Fine. He's magically cured. Whatever. I don't... At this point, I'm not going to care.
Yeah.
And again, just one of these simple little telltale signs that you're watching a movie by someone who doesn't know how to cut things down and edit it into like a... Because let's be honest, storytelling of any kind, movies included, it's all about just giving information, and it's about the most interesting way, the most engaging way of giving that information and passing it along to the audience, right? So they're talking as they're like opening the wine and they're in the kitchen, and it fades to them just finishing their dinner, and they're putting down their forks, and they're like, oh, I'm stuffed, yeah, that was great. And it was such a Birdemic The Room style scene where it's no point to it. We could cut to the immediate part of the scene that matters, where she's like, oh, what's this camera? What have you been recording? And he's like, oh, I recorded a message from my grandma. You also recorded about 5 hours of B-roll, you dickhead, because we watched you do it. So she turns on the camera and watches it, and she sees the mannequin turn behind them, and the reactions are really inhumane. They don't react like human beings would react to that situation. And let's go check it out. And she's like, this is really weird. And they go, and it's just a mannequin. They have a good laugh, and okay, so I guess that's deflated. And at this point, we're like nearly 40 minutes into the film of a 79-minute movie, and little's happened. Little has happened. The doorbell goes.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm imagining the script writer, right? He's writing the script.
Yeah.
He's writing the script, and he's like, all right. Andrew goes to the door. He opens the door, and standing there is a man, middle-aged, with a goatee. I don't know what to call him. Guy. I'll call Guy Guy. Either that, or he put in Guy as a placeholder, and then just forgot to go back and check. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that Guy is a name. You can't have people called Guy. Guy Gardner, a Green Lantern, for example. There's Guy is a name. However, in this movie, because everything's so lazy and convenient, and like you can tell they didn't have any resources and they're not good filmmakers, I do want to believe that it is just, it's kind of like how in like a bigger movie, like an extra will be credited as like prison inmate number 2.
Yeah.
That his credit is Guy, not because it's his name. He's just Guy. Guy number 1. He's the worst actor in the movie though, which is saying something in this shitfest. Every line that comes out of his mouth is complete bollocks. He's like, oh, I'm a neighbour and I'm down the street. I just got this call about the escaped convicts in the neighbourhood. You need to, and you'll remember this phrase because he says it about 20 goddamn times. You need to make sure all your windows and doors are locked. He then walks into the house without being invited and starts checking their windows and doors.
Now, I wouldn't even say walk. He like practically runs, just like blows right by him. And again, talk about like people not reacting the way human beings would. Like at this point, any reasonable person would be like, all right, hold it right there, sir. Like, we don't know who you are. Like, go back outside. We're going to call the cops, get this straightened out. But no, what does Andre do? He goes like, oh yeah, I better go like check everything, and just wanders off and leaves his girlfriend alone with this stranger who just ran into the house.
Not only that, not does he leave her, he actually asks her in front of him, are you okay with me leaving you here with him? And she's like, yeah, that's fine.
like, remember, this guy just like they don't know him, and he just immediately starts talking about escaped convicts, which if there were escaped convicts, that's what an escaped convict would say. Like, they would go to a house and be like, "Oh, there's some crazies on the loose. Let me in. I'll protect you." You know, like it's so baffling that any of this was allowed to happen.
Yeah. So
And also, they, I know that this house is supposedly like pretty big.
Oh,
but
Tim, this is exactly the point I was about to bring up.
Okay, yeah.
So, so Andre goes down the stairs because there's meant to be like a sort of the lower level goes further or whatever, and he goes to check, and the guy starts making small talk with Rachel. He's just, so yeah, you make a cute couple. I'm like, that's a little bit creepy coming from a stranger, but okay. Maybe not an old person. I could see like an old granny saying that, and it wouldn't feel weird. Like, yes, kind of thing they would say. Oh, you make a cute couple, you two, you know.
Also, he's only known them for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, he's literally seen them standing next to each other.
Yeah,
and that's about it. Yeah,
they could be like brother and sister for all he knows. He doesn't even.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then he starts asking really inappropriate questions. He just comes out with how long you've been having sex, and then. So when you're having sex, like where does he finish? On your chest, on your, you know, he starts listening to this, and she slaps him, and we're supposed to believe this is getting emotional, and he then says, you know, the thing about this house is the downstairs goes really far back. You can't hear anything at the other end, and he puts on gloves because I wouldn't want to leave fingerprints anywhere, would I? And he starts coming towards her. And the scene just kind of cuts. It cuts to Andre's back. So at this moment, the movie's kind of implied that Guy is a creepy serial killer, and he's attacked Rachel.
Oh, I think Guy implied that.
True. The guy implied that heavily. And this makes no sense. When we get to the end of the movie, this whole scene makes zero goddamn... The whole movie makes no goddamn sense, but this scene in particular makes no goddamn sense. So it cuts to Andre, and Andre walks up the stairs, and Guy's just sitting there with a glass of wine by himself, and he's like, "Where's Rachel?" Well, that was a very accurate impersonation, may I add. And he's like, "Oh, she left. Yeah, she took her things. She let her bags gone. Yeah, she left." He's like, "Did you say why?" "No, you'd have to ask her." Well, a lot of wine and food here, though. I can help you finish it off. And then I can't remember what he says specifically that makes him, like, again, creepy. And Andre finally starts thinking, "Oh, this guy might not be on the up and up." Shock and surprise.
It's like super like bro-y too. Like he gets like all up in his face, and like, yeah, it's such a like that annoying like frat boy chest bumping.
Yeah, it tells him to get out. Yeah. Guy keeps talking nonsense and crap at him, and then he steps in like right up to his face, chest to chest, as you say, and we get the best, and by best I mean worst, delivery of "get the F out" I have ever heard in my life. He puts all these pauses in between his words and draws it out.
Get the...
Exactly. Yeah.
Like everything in this movie is just waiting for what you know is gonna happen. You're like, just say it.
It is, and like again, this is passing all 10 minutes. This scene is just going on, and he eventually's like, "Yeah, all right, don't have to tell me 3 times. I'll get out."
Which that's not a saying. It's you don't have to tell me twice. Is what.
But hey, to be fair, Guy's been accurate. He has already asked him twice.
That's true. It's just weird that someone would wait.
Hey, maybe he's operating on like baseball logic, like, you know, 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing. So 2's okay. 2's okay, but 3's too many. So he leaves, and as he's going out, he's like, "Yeah, if you need anything, buddy, I'll just be down the street." He's like, "Okay, bye." And then we get like,
I have no sense of this house, this area. I don't know. Are they next door neighbors, or does he like live at the bottom of a hill, like 20 minutes away?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no sense of anything.
Yeah. Also, his appearance in general, his whole story doesn't make any sense. Just think about it. He comes to the door and says, "Oh, I just got this call from the police. There's escaped convicts in the area." And they're like, "What? We didn't hear about that. You didn't get that call?" Like, well, if they did actually call, obviously they didn't. But if they did call everyone in the area. If they were going to call people,
yeah, that's not how the police work.
They wouldn't anyway. It would be on the news. God damn it.
Yeah,
But
I might like just someone at a police station be like, "All right, guys, we got escaped convicts. You know what that means? Everyone to their desks, pick up the phone, start calling people in the neighborhood."
But just assume that under the logic of this movie, that the police would call everyone in the area that is in a danger of escaped convicts, right? If they were going to do it for one person, they would do it for everyone, right? They'd do it for the street or whatever the area is. They wouldn't do it for anyone, but if they were going to for one, they'd do it for them all.
Right. Yeah.
So he comes to the door. He's like, "You didn't get that call?" Oh, I was like, "So what were you hoping to get? If you came to the door assuming they got the call, what were you there for? What were you hoping to get from them? What assistance did you want?"
Yeah.
Your story makes no
idea.
sense. I don't. Oh god, it is the most like them not immediately thinking he's a weirdo serial killer is like the most out of character thing ever. Like the most illogical character plot decision making. Ugh. Anyway,
And the worst part about it is that like up to now nothing has happened. So you think like, okay, maybe here's where we'll start to get some plot development and kind of start to see where things are gonna go. But instead, it just throws this weird cog, in the machine where you're like, okay.
Yeah. Once Guy leaves, Andre then basically gets high. Which, by the way, him getting high, he's like, I think he's meant to be breathing in like a. He's got a bag and he's like inhaling.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be him getting high. I'll be honest. Maybe the substance is clear, whatever. But to me, it just looked like he was breathing into a plastic bag and nothing was in it.
Yeah, there's a term for that type of device. I forget what it's called, but I don't know like how it looks like either. But I mean, if that is how it is supposed to look, it doesn't make it like visually interesting.
Yeah,
like
visually, there's no way to tell that he's actually doing anything. It looks like he's just breathing into a bag, and that's all he's doing. It doesn't look, and obviously they're making a movie, so there shouldn't be anything actually happening. But
yeah,
it should be.
At the very least, like I'm sure a lot of people probably know what he's doing, but hey, not everyone is going to do that. Is going to know that, so just make it something simple, like him just smoking a joint, something that everyone can recognize. Like, okay, yeah.
The only. Yeah, but that would require getting fake stuff to do it with, and
True.
This movie clearly does not have the budget to do that. They clearly had a drone, so they used their drone multiple times, and that's about it. But anyone can buy a drone.
Yeah.
But so we get this sequence of him wandering around the house, being kind of high, looking into the oven and doing various other things. Another 15 minutes of this.
Yeah, he like he said something weird to the oven too. I forgot about that. But then there was like a weird, I don't know. I don't even remember. And it's stupid.
The whole thing ends with your classic, runs into a screaming face and then wakes up.
Yeah.
That's how it ends. And I don't know if it's before this or after this. This part of the movie kind of blends together in my head. But he gets a flashlight at one point, even though the lights are still clearly on. Like, not all of them, but there's still lights on in the house. Yeah. And he gets a flashlight and starts using the flashlight to look at the mannequins and check they're all actually mannequins. And the movie tries to do a couple of creepy things. It tries to have like someone standing behind him with a mask on. It does a couple of things like that. There's a few times that happens. But the problem is that it's so inadequately directed and shot that none of it lands. None of it makes you feel anything. It feels like an amateur just trying to emulate other things, and it doesn't. Yeah. And this might sound really arrogant, right? This might sound really arrogant, but I feel like even if I hadn't, I can criticize this because I can look at it and compare it to other movies and go, no, this looks like crap compared to every other decent or even mediocre horror movie on the planet.
Yeah.
But as someone who's actually made like some student films, like I did better than this. Like, they may not be perfect. There's things you can pick apart. There's things you can, but at least the pacing of scenes and like building like a sequence out of interesting shots, I did better than this. Every single scene in this is
Sure. Yeah. No, I've seen
numb.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the shorts you did, and yeah, I would definitely say they were, unfortunately, it's not much of a compliment, but I would say they are better than this.
Well, I'll take that. As thinly veiled as that may be, Tim, I'll take it. But there's just a principle, and I'm like, it's almost like this person who made this wasn't even a student filmmaker. It was like they didn't go to school for film, they just thought they could do it.
I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I feel like you get that a lot more with horror. Like it seems like a genre that people that aren't as maybe it's something that I think a lot of people are like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, because it's cheaper, and you look at something like Halloween, which only costs $300,000, and you think, oh, they did so much with so little, and good filmmakers can.
Yeah.
Like again, give a good director, give I don't know. James Wan. Give James Wan the same amount of money and this one house and tell him you've got a couple of weeks to make a horror movie. I bet you'll turn out something that's a fun little in-the-house movie that works.
Well, I mean, we see that all the time now. Like, there's always tons of, like, oh, this, like, 2-minute horror short is the scariest thing all year. You see all those articles all the time. Yeah. And even some of them get made into movies. Like, I mean, say what you will about Mama, but that was based off like a short that someone did that was I actually think the short was like legitimately creepy and cool, and
the movie was too drawn out. Yeah.
But I mean, there's tons of like really good like small shorts that are done on nothing.
Think of Your Next. Think of Your Next. That's mostly in one house. The house isn't that much bigger than this one.
Yeah.
It's just you've got a better director and better actors. That's basically it. And a better, everyone else is better too. You get a better editor, better DP who shoots it better, and like all those elements are better, but it's still just a house with a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even House of the Devil. It's mostly one person in one house, and it's thrilling.
Yeah.
It looks like a movie.
Yeah, like you could have told me that was made on like practically nothing, because there isn't really like a lot of crazy stuff that happens in it, but it's still like super effective, super creepy. There's an atmosphere to it. There's a style to it. There's engaging characters.
I mean, honestly, see, when it comes to horror movies, obviously your bigger idea ones, but most horror movies, the majority of the budget and the reason why they cost anything to make really is the people making it. All the people need to be paid. Whereas for like, see when you look at an Avengers or something, it's like $250 million. Sure, a lot of those, like Robert Downey Jr. is earning a lot of money, sure, but they have to spend so much money on the big locations, all the CG. Like, more of the money's still spent on other things other than the actors and the director and whoever else. Everyone in the crew basically. Like, I mean, even if that's not true, it's still the percentage, the ratio's still a lot more even or whatever. That's why horror movies can work so well on a small budget, is because if you get enough money to pay the right people and they're dedicated, they make the movie, the locations don't cost a lot. It doesn't cost a lot to rent a house, to shoot in a house. It doesn't cost a lot to, get a simple little location.
Yeah.
There's a reason why so many crap horror movies are just shot in the woods, because it doesn't cost anything to shoot in the woods, is the basic answer to that. Oh, dear. Anyway, where are we in the plot of this one then?
So is this the point where he's like searching for his phone now and calls his friend?
Yeah, he finds this, like, there's like a music studio, recording studio in the house for some reason, even though it's not been set up that would be there for any reason, because most people don't have that in their house. And he finds some pictures of both Rachel and a few other girls, and a kind of stalker type photos, what I mean, like, taken from across the street and stuff like that.
And I kept kind of getting confused, because there's a couple of times where we see like other girls and stuff, and they all like look so similar. And Rachel's, I don't know, sorry, but kind of forgettable, that I kept being like, is that supposed to be her or is that someone else? Or
no, well, one of them was a different race at the very least, because there was an Asian girl in one of the photos.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, just like something that it doesn't help the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, he finds the photos and he's like, "Oh, this is a setup. This is the game show thing." And he phones his friend. Is this the game show? He's like, "No, it's not. I swear, you're not. Just go and relax." Anyway, after the jump scare, he wakes up and he looks around and he finds. Again, this is all blended together. Let's just whatever. He finds he goes to get a drink, and he just happens to look in the freezer where there's a bottle of, I think it was Jägermeister, in the ice. He's like, "Oh, I'll have some of this." So again, at this point we're like an hour into this 79-minute movie, and there's no rise of like tension. There's no like end of act 2. We're building to the ending. This is back to him just sauntering around the house and doing random boring things. He gets the Jägermeister. He pours it out. Oh, there's a USB stick contained within the Jägermeister, which he might never have found, but here it is, conveniently. So he USB stick. At first, I wasn't sure if he knew what that was, and then he apparently has a laptop that's connected to the big TV. Fine, whatever. He puts it in, and there's like slideshow or whatever, and it's all these images of all these girls, same as the photographs on the desk. Okay, I wonder where this is going. And there's a video file that's titled "Play Me." Here's my problem with this.
Yeah.
He had amnesia, right? And you can probably guess, if you're listening to our talking about this without seeing the movie, at this point you've probably guessed what the end of the movie is, what the twist is going to be.
Yeah.
For this to say "play me" as if it's for him, he would have to have known that he was going to get amnesia.
Well, it seems like they're trying for a weird multiple personality kind of thing.
Well, okay. Well,
so
see, the reason why that never came to mind, Sam, is because they introduced that literally in the last scene.
Oh yeah, no,
they don't build that up at all. But yeah, okay.
It's definitely not well done. But I mean, I don't know if that's even what they were going for. But that's what it seemed like to me. But you are right. It does come out of nowhere, and then it also raises questions like, was that something as a result of the accident? Was that something he's always had in him?
Oh, dude,
no idea.
Oh god. Yeah, so he watches the footage and there's a girl in her like underwear and lingerie, tied to a post, and she's talking dirty as if she's willingly get tied up. She's like, "Oh, let's do some kinky stuff," and she's blindfolded. And at one point he's like groping her and he's like feeling her up, and I'm like, now given the budget of this movie, this could just be the actor's girlfriend, hence why she was comfortable doing this. But all I could think during this scene, especially when I thought she might like get undressed further, I was like, not for this movie. Please, dear, don't do it for this movie. Not this one, love. Like seriously, you'll regret this so much in 5 years. Don't do it for this movie. But yeah, he starts to cut her tongue and he stops the video because it gets too disturbing for him. And like, oh, I wonder where this is going. And then he wanders around the house a bit more. Some attempts at a creepy scene, and then he gets rushed by police. Lots of police burst in the house and pin him to the ground, including Guy. Guy's a policeman.
Whoa.
And he's standing around looking all serious, and Andrew's like, "Nah, it wasn't me. I left a recording, swear, watch it." Yeah. So they have him, like, hands behind his back, handcuffed, and they all put this recording on and play it from where it continued off, where he left it.
Yeah, you know how police always act like when they arrest someone, but the person's like, "Hey, let's watch this video before." Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we could take you down to the station, bag everything as evidence, check it out, interview you there. But no, let's just like all hang out and watch this video that this crazy person
video.
Yeah.
And they're watching it, and the girl gets killed and blood everywhere, and then the killer, who's got a hoodie on with his hood up. Why he had his hood up when she was blindfolded, I don't know. But he takes off the hoodie and he turns around and it's him, and he comes right up to the camera and looks at it with blood, and blood all over he smears it all over his face. He's like, and it pauses on his face, and Andre's like cries like, "No, it can't be true, it can't be true." Like we all didn't see this coming. Yeah. Right?
The most painful thing about it is if they did it like in the time it just took you to describe it, that would have been fine. But again, it lasts so long, and he's pacing.
Yeah, see the video, right? Both times it goes on, the first half and the second half, it lasts for ages because the guy's just wandering around and walking around, and we see him take out his toolbox with his blades, and it just keeps going. It keeps going forever, and it's like, again, like the rest of the movie, no sense of pacing, no sense of time. There's no plot structure either. Like things, like a couple of random things happen here or there, but almost nothing happens, and then the ending happens, and that's it. Right. So at this point, I'm thinking, before we even get to the split personality bollocks, he starts screaming, "Oh, it wasn't me, it was him. It wasn't me, it was him." And then he like snaps into a different character. He's like, "Yeah, that pussy doesn't know what." He starts talking about like Andre as if he's another guy, and the guy's acting so bad that it's just kind of laughable. And you're like, okay, this came out of nowhere. This was not implied. This was not set up. This was not whatever throughout the entire movie. But here's what was going through my head. Apart from this, this was terrible, and what a stupid twist. Like, having him have amnesia and not remembering he's a serial killer would have been enough.
Yeah. Sure.
That was twist enough. They didn't have to do the whole, oh, it's also a split personality thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was thinking during this, like, but what about his friend who drove him here? Like, that whole setup about he's looking after the house for him. Like, if this is really Andre's actual house, and that's why he's brought him here, right? If this is actually his house, why would he make up this story? Why not just tell him, I'm taking you home?
I don't get it.
I don't get that thing. Why that story? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm about to ask more questions, bigger questions about this whole police thing operation. Right. So, by the way, throughout all this, we see that they find a girl in the basement. There's a girl tied up down there who presumably was the next victim. Rachel, of course, would have been the next victim after that. And obviously, when you see that guy's a cop, you get that he got her out of harm's way. The whole point of that scene was that he was getting rid of her so that she wasn't in danger. I don't know why I had to include him asking her all these questions about sex. Like, why not, as soon as Andrea leaves the scene, be like, look, ma'am, I'm a police officer. We suspect him of being a serial killer. You know, just tell her what's going on. I don't understand why he has to play this weird game when he's out of the room of, like, all these sex questions. I don't get it.
See, alright, so honestly, I didn't even know that's what happened. Like, when you're saying that, like I didn't know that's what Guy did, because that was going to be my question, like what happened with Guy and Rachel and all that stuff. But that makes sense, but it's so poorly done that
no, I agree. I just got it as soon as I seen he's a policeman. I was like, okay, right, that's what that scene was. That was him playing a character so that he'd get to her on her own and get her out of the house. Fine.
Okay.
The problem is, why play this character when he's out when Andre leaves the room? Why does he still act like that dickhead? Why not just immediately go, look, ma'am, here's my badge, I'm a police officer, you're in danger, I need to get you out of the house right now. Why not just say that? I don't get it. The whole scene is done that way to make us think he's a serial killer. Whereas if it had just cut away and see if we just followed Andre and everything was from his perspective, and he came back and she was missing, that would have been enough. And it'd have been more subtle. It wouldn't have been, because him like starting to say things like all the questions he was asking, that just makes it too obvious that he's maybe creepy or whatever.
Yeah. And why did he like stick around and start drinking his like wine and why put on such a big show of it?
Well, I'm going to not defend it, but I'll suggest that was so that Andrew wouldn't go looking for her. Like, if he stuck around and said she left, then he would go about his business as normal afterwards.
Which, oddly enough, again, is not something someone would normally do. Like, if he was like close with this girl, he probably would have tried to do something more than just like call her once or.
But here's the problem I have though after this. Right, so Andrew's getting carted out of the house, and his friend's there. So I'm like, okay, right. So he was part of this thing, because part of me was thinking, is he in on the killings and he's bringing him here? Is this like their killing house that's separate from him? No. He's in it with the cops. He's helped them by taking him here, and again, that's why I'm like, why tell him this convoluted story about looking after the house? Why not just tell him it's his house? What do you have to lose by doing that? Whatever. Yeah. But as he's been carted out, and we see Rachel's there safe, why they've let her stick around to see him be arrested, I don't know, but whatever, she's there. Mm. So this whole thing was a sting. This whole thing was to catch him. So all I can ask, why? If they suspect that he's a serial killer, if they've got enough reason to set up this sting operation, And if it's to save like someone in the house, right? Now, if you'd said to me they don't know where he's keeping the girl, and we have to let him lure her to us, that'd be okay, except that it's his friend who knows where he lives, because Andrew doesn't remember where he lives.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know it's his house.
Yeah.
So Andrew's friend knows where this house is, so they know where the house is. Why didn't they just come in and search it? Why did they go through all this charade of letting him wander around and then turning off the power, just creeping around and scaring him from behind? Like, was the point that they couldn't find where the girl was hidden in the basement and they had to wait until he stumbled onto her? Like, I don't get it.
I just like the idea of cops being like, let's give him a good scare before we arrest him.
I don't understand what the point of the whole sting operation was. If they're convinced that he is possibly a killer, you get a warrant and you go into his house and you search it.
I have absolutely no idea. I wish I could formulate some type of theory or something, but everything makes so little sense that I can't even begin to fathom why they would go through such a thing.
This twist raises so many plot holes that I just can't fill. Why would the entire premise of the movie is a plot hole?
I feel like you're almost giving them like more credit than like they deserve. Like, I think you're actually putting more thought into it right now than they did when they wrote the script.
Yeah.
Like, I bet they were probably just like, oh, and then like, here's this twist, and then not hoping that people wouldn't be like, does it make sense? I don't know. Let's think about it.
They were far too concerned with writing scenes where he just walks into rooms in the house going, oh, look at that master bed. I might have to sleep in here.
Oh, yeah. Like that.
Oh, look at this big TV. This was all that was missing after I found all that booze. I hate this movie.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
This was garbage. This was, last week you liked the movie more than I did, so we had a little bit of a different opinion. Yeah. And I thought, I'll pick something that we'll both clearly be on the same page about. I may have went too far.
But do you get what I'm saying though, with like how they were trying like so hard to like do like interesting shots and stuff, because there's so many scenes where like it would start on the ground and then like tilt up to them, and then or it'd be like an overhead shot or something. Like, it seemed like they were trying so hard.
They were trying without understanding why it works. Like, they were breaking a lot of basic filmmaking rules. They crossed the line where it made no sense several times. If you don't, I'll explain what crossing the line is. It's also referred to as the 180-degree rule, if you've heard it explained that way. It's so you've got a scene with two actors, right? And they're just talking to each other. So the idea of the line is what's between them. Between them is a straight line. And if you're going with the 180 degrees rule, it's like the idea is that the camera always stays on one side of that line. You never just jump over to the other side. Now, there's some reasons why you would do it. Like, if you want to like make the audience feel jolted because there's something to reveal on the other side of the room, or like there is reasons why you break the rule. But when you break the rule, you understand why you're breaking it to create an effect. You never just do it in the middle of a normal dialogue scene. It makes no sense, and it confuses the audience in terms of geography, because suddenly everything in the room's flipped.
Yeah. And
the actors are on the opposite side. So it's kind of like, see, when I'm talking to you, Tim, my talking space is here, right? And if you turn to face sort of me kind of thing, you're talking, that's how you'd shoot it. But it would be like if I shot me like this, and then it cut to you, but you were facing the other way. So we're both facing the same way. It would be confusing. The other way.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be the wrong way, right? And that would look confusing if it cut to that shot between the two of us. And this movie does this. It doesn't do that exact thing, but it crosses the line several times where it shouldn't. And everything about it, the way it's shot, the way the scenes are edited together, the way the sequences are put together, it convinced me that whoever made this has absolutely no idea how to put a scene together, how to make it interesting, how to build tension and suspense, just in the most basic sense of pacing. Like, just, there's a lot of little things that even a lot of the bad movies we watch do that work.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking about this after I watched it yesterday and a couple of times throughout today. Well, no, I just, sometimes I'll try to think of like, oh, what are some stuff I can kind of think about or bring up, or what my general opinion's gonna be. And I was racking my brain so hard, like, because I don't know who the person is who made this movie. Like, when we talk about an Eli Roth movie or a Rob Zombie movie, like, I think it's safe to say
the culprit is Dave Parker.
Dave Parker. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know who this guy is, and it feels like we said, as a student film or something, it kind of feels like. So, he might be a really nice guy who's trying his hardest. I don't want to be too negative, as opposed to when we talk about like Rob Zombie or Eli Roth, who we generally don't like, and whatever, maybe it's me, but I think we're a little more comfortable trashing him. But I was trying to think of something positive, like at least one nice thing I could say about this movie, and I legitimately can't.
There's nothing. There's not even, like, even though, like, I was saying to Tim before we started recording that when I realised how bad it was, I was sort of giggling about it for like 20 minutes of the runtime. It probably helped me get through a lot of that wandering through the house sequence, because I was really, like, that was really painfully slow, but I was giggling at just how bad it was. Not because it was so bad it was funny in that sense, it was just, oh, this is so dire. I'm giggling because I made Tim watch this more than anything else. And that ran out. Like, once we got to about 30 minutes in, I was like, okay, I'm just painfully bored now. This is terrible. Nothing happening on screen's engaging. None of the characters are written remotely realistically or anything.
Yeah.
So, and it's just so frustrating. I mean, I think it's always worth mentioning when we criticize a movie and we say we hate a director, we don't hate them as a person per se. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we hate their work, and maybe it feels cruel to like slate this as much as we are, but it doesn't even feel like, because even when you watch some other, because there's two types of student film, and maybe calling this a student film is actually harsh to students, because like I say, it feels like the person who made this never actually went to film school or TV production or anything like that. It feels like they didn't actually know what they were doing. I think students for the most part will do a better job than this.
Yeah.
The student films have their own flaws. Some students get a little bit too like pretentious, especially the sort of the more snobby ones, where they'll try to make it ultra artistic and they'll do all these, and it's like, oh, this is, yeah, you've put in a quote from someone at the start. You're trying to impress people. You're trying to make your art film, and it's a bit too much, and they don't have restraint. But at least there you can see the passion on the screen. You can see that they're trying to do all these different things, and even if they're failing in the sense that it's not working, like they're doing too much, they need to show restraint and like calm themselves down a little bit. At least you can see it's like when you watch when we watch a lot of bad horror movies that we like, kind of like slasher movies, especially stuff like Chopping Mall, or stuff like, I like the Friday the 13th sequels, and it's maybe the other bad example for what I'm about to say, but a lot of these bad horror movies though, even when they're really goofy and the acting's really cheesy and stupid, and like they're still paced properly, and
there's still like a type of craft there.
Yeah, there's still a type of craft there. They usually put some effort into the death scenes and stuff, so you're enjoying them. And if nothing else, you can kind of feel you get the sense that these people had fun making this movie. You get the sense they cared about it. For as goofy as it might be, they cared. And I'm not saying the people making this didn't care, but if they did, it is not on screen. You can't feel any of it.
Yeah. Oh boy. That was a lot to unpack. There. Well, actually, one quick thing I will bring up. Also, I think we're pretty reasonable people for the most part, and there's plenty of times on this show where we've said, like, "Hey, I don't like this, but I get it. It's not for me." And
that happens.
And I just,
because that's just a case of like taste. Like sometimes someone's into more supernatural stuff, sometimes you're into more serial killers, whatever. Like I'm using those examples because we're talking about horror movies, but like that's kind of the way you just go. It's just a taste thing. You don't connect with that type of story for whatever reason. That's not what this is. This is just.
And one last thing I want to bring up before we go into ratings. I think we kind of got to talk about the title a little bit.
It watches, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
actually, did it
piss you off?
See, before we talk about what the title is, I want to talk about how it appears on screen.
Okay.
As someone who's tinkered around in After Effects, it feels like someone who learned to use After Effects in a day and thought, "Oh, this looks cool," and used that as the title animation where it comes, because it says "it" and it goes flying past through the screen, and then watches comes through the screen and it's all metallic, and I'm like, this doesn't suit the movie. They've just done this because they found this effect and they thought, oh, this looks cool, we're going to use this.
Yeah.
But continue.
Well, all right, so there's that, which was annoying. And then do you feel like they're trying to like bite on It Follows little fame? Because that's kind of like that has like a little bit of a reputation now. We both love it, and I think most people, or at least like most horror fans have seen it or like it.
I'll tell you this. It Watches sounds like a great movie. It Watches sounds like a title of a movie that I would love. Not just because it sounds a little bit like It Follows, which, I love It Follows. But it sounds like a good title for a monster movie, especially. If you get a monster like creeping around and watching you kind of thing.
Yeah.
The title makes no sense, though, in this movie.
Who's watching?
I mean, there's cameras, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the answer is the police are watching. They're the ones that are spying on them. Why? I don't know why they didn't just search the house. Yeah. Oh my god, this movie's so stupid. Maybe that's an intentional thing, I don't know. Given how lifeless and unimaginative the rest of the movie is, probably.
Yeah. I mean, it could definitely be a coincidence, but, now that, like, It Follows is such, like, a big movie, for me, probably for you too.
I mean, there's definitely like a backlash to it. Like, with any big movie and any like, especially horror movies, there always seems to be, oh, everyone likes The Witch this year. There'll be like a good 30% who like, no, The Witch sucked. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's always the backlash, but yeah, it's one of those things where it got that enough acclaim in the horror circles that it's one of the bigger horror movies of the last few years.
Either way, if you like it or don't like it, it's in the horror zeitgeist now. That if
that's a good way of putting it. It's in the zeitgeist now.
Yeah. So if you name your movie something, I my first instinct is kind of gotta be like, hey, are you just trying to get up on some of this popular movies? The
only positive thing I'll say about the title is, other than the fact that I actually think it's a good title for another movie, is I did get to start this podcast with, we're going to talk about It Follows. I wish I wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, not It Follows, sorry, It Watches. See, I just made the mistake.
I don't think I have anything left to say.
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate this. I'm really glad none of the actresses got their boobs out for this movie, because, don't get me wrong, it's usually gratuitous in horror movies, but not for this one, guys. Just bit of respect.
I guess if
this was the thing I was thinking, actually. See, during the whole ending and the reveal when they've got him handcuffed and he's watching the video and he sees it's him and he's like, no, it wasn't me. I almost imagine that's the reaction that anyone involved in the making of this film is going to have if they watch this again in like 5 years.
Yeah. Oh boy.
What are you going to say, Tim?
Maybe one small positive I can say is that, like, I guess there wasn't anything like too offensive. I mean, maybe you could say, like, as a film, it's offensive to call it a movie or something, but like, at least there wasn't anything that was like racially or culturally offensive. That's the one thing I guess I can say.
Yeah, I guess.
But if that's like the only, like, the bare minimum of, like, you can be like, well, I wasn't offended by it.
Oh dear, you do realise that we have now gone almost the entire runtime of the movie itself.
Oh dear Lord.
I guarantee you, if you stuck around this hour or so, if you stuck around all this time, I guarantee you had more fun and more things happened on this discussion of the movie than in the movie itself. I promise you that. I promise you that. Even if you hated this, even if you thought we were boring, even if you don't like us, I guarantee you if you try and watching this movie, you'll be like, you know what, no, they were right. That watching them was more fun. I promise you that.
Is it time for It Rates?
I like it, too. I like it. It rates indeed. It puts the lotion in the basket.
Should I go first?
1 out of 10. I'll beat you to it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was going to, I guess, explain it a little further, but
we just spent an hour explaining it, Tim.
I just want to say one more time. My ratings 1 out of 10 as well.
Look,
but I was trying, like, there are movies that
Wait a minute. Actually, Tim, we do 0.5s. We could call it 0.5 out of 10. Or do we give it a 0? Is a 0... Do we allow... We've never had this thing before where we're like, do we allow zeros?
I don't know. Well, we can ponder that, but I just want to say, like, like, earlier today, I was like, you know, a 1 is really harsh, and, like, there have been other movies we've absolutely hated, but, you know, we still gave, like, a 2 or a 3 or something. So I was trying to think if there was one little thing I could grasp on in this movie to lift me up higher than a 1, like but there really isn't. Like, I can't say, like, oh, well, at least the special effects are good, or at least I like this one character, or at least I like this one plot point, at least I like... There's absolutely nothing. And I don't know, maybe we could go lower than a 1 if we want. Maybe a 1 is being generous. I don't know, but this is hard.
Because we hated Green Inferno. We hated that with a passion. But Green Inferno's a better movie than this.
Yeah, I think that's the only other movie I gave a 1 to. I forget what you gave it. And maybe I gave it a 1.5. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was a 1.
I gave it like a 3.
Which is, yeah, if you're going to go to that point where it's like, I hate everything about this, but on a technical level,
yeah,
they knew how to shoot.
Yeah, because it looked like a movie.
Yeah.
If nothing else. The actors were nowhere near as bad as the... Because I wouldn't say the acting in that was necessarily that bad.
I think some of them were bad, but then there were some that were...
Yeah, but even the bad ones were nothing like this.
Yeah.
This was people off the street who have never acted before in their life trying to get, give lines.
Plus, like, that movie and the other movies we don't like The Forest, Other Side of the Door, Friend Request, all that garbage, at least they still have plots. At least they still have coherent stories that... Well,
coherence may be a bit generous, but they do have stories.
Okay.
Things happen. Things keep happening, typically. Even if they're stupid, even if we hate them, and we will tear them apart as well when the occasion calls for it, things happen. And they typically look like movies. You get the occasional one like The Darkness where it's not edited properly and it's especially shoddy for a studio motion picture, to use a proper term there. Here it's like, nah, this is a complete shambles that doesn't even deserve the title film, probably.
I don't know.
It sounds really harsh, but you're watching it, it looks like shit. The acting's terrible, plot's terrible, script is terrible, direction is terrible. Everything about it. There's not a redeeming quality in the thing. It's absolute dire. So there you go.
So if this came out and like we just watched it recently. I don't know the exact release date of this movie, but if this was like late 2016, I think we should make an exception to have it qualify for the worst of 2017.
It's funny. See, as I was watching this, I might want to go back and like delete our old worst top 10 of 2016 and edit it and add in this, because this would this be at the top? Would this be Darkness?
I think so.
Yeah,
without a doubt. It
would. This would be the worst one we watched. Yeah.
Well, we'll see how we feel at the end of this year's awards. Maybe it'll get a nice shout out if we decide we can't do it. But...
Maybe at the end of this year, because there's still a few 2016 movies we're going to try and like fit in that we missed, or some other smaller stuff, like hopefully not quite like this, that slipped through the cracks. Like maybe we'll have honorable mentions of movies from last year that didn't make last year's list, but we want to mention them because they're terrible. I don't know. Like, it's the thing, like I say, Green Inferno's better. The Room is a better movie.
Oh yeah.
Because The Room is funny. Like, maybe not intentionally, but I've watched The Room several times with people. I like showing people The Room. I don't want to show anyone this.
Yeah, and well, we talked about that a lot before, about how like even if a movie's pretty bad, there can be it can be so bad to a point where it's entertaining, or there's a certain type of badness that you enjoy, a type of cheesiness or goofiness or cheapness or whatever, that makes it fun to watch. And that I would say that's actually kind of like a skill in of itself. You know, maybe not always something that people do on purpose.
I think it's less of a. I think the thing that separates it is when you watch The Room, right? It's terrible. It's incompetent. He has no idea how to make a movie. But you get the sense that Tommy Wiseau actually really cares, and he's trying to make a good movie. He just has no idea how. It's that genuine like intention that gives it its feeling. Like, see if someone tries to make a bad movie and they intentionally try and make it as bad as The Room, it comes off just feeling terrible because it's forced and it's fake and it's whatever. But when they try to make it good and it fails because they have no idea what they're doing, that's when it's fun.
Yeah.
This, I mean, maybe they did care, but this was...
It doesn't come across.
It doesn't come across. You don't see any of it on screen.
This isn't even like sci-fi original movie level bad. Like,
no, because they still have things that happen in them.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Sharknado. Sharknado makes more sense than the twist in this movie.
Yeah, I feel bad because it's so negative. But honestly, this is one of the worst ones we've watched maybe ever of the show.
No, I think that's accurate. Ever. Let's hope next week's is better.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I'm not feeling that Bye Bye Man will be better, but it may be.
I mean,
it's it's in theaters. It has to be better. Like, it has to at least look more like a movie.
If anything, it might be. After watching this, maybe it might seem better at the very least.
We're like, 9 out of 10 for Bye Bye Man. That was great after that last one. Oh dear. Okay, well, do you know, that's only the second movie I've watched in 2017. I've been a bit busy. I've not had time to watch as many movies these first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
This is my second movie in 2017, and it watches.
You know what's funny is I've actually had more free time lately, so I've been catching up with a lot of movies. So almost everything I've watched in 2017 so far has been fantastic, except for this was the one that really, really like made me go like, oh, this might not be such a good year after all.
Now you want to take a break. I don't want to watch movies anymore for a while. I need to recuperate. All right. Well, we actually are almost, we're like 5 minutes away from hitting the movie's runtime, if you can believe it. So thank you very much for watching. Do not watch it. Watches if you have somehow seen it. By all means, let us know what you think in the comments below. But I highly doubt anyone has. This, I think I may have to vet the movies a little bit more. Although that said, this was probably more entertaining us having watched this terrible movie. So let us know if this was fun. Maybe we will seek out these utter crap fests.
And I think if you didn't watch the movie, then watch this review, and then watch the movie, I feel like you deserve some type of like prize or like.
No, they deserve some sort of psychiatric help.
Why? I just think like anyone willing to do that to themselves like deserves like the Screams After Midnight like platinum award. Like,
Jesus Christ! I thought they could probably sue us for trauma. If like, oh, why did you watch this movie? Well, it was those guys on Screams After Midnight. Jesus.
Oh, well, we'll find a way to induce amnesia, drive them back to their house.
Oh my god. Alright guys, that's been Screams After Midnight. Thank you very much for watching, like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. We always appreciate it. I love how it's always the terrible movies that make us go super long. So it's always those ones. But Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Check out the other shows we do. Remember, we did put a top 10 horror movies of 2016 and also a worst 10 horror movies of 2016. You can check out both of those. I'll make sure there's links at the end of in the corner, one of those places. And check out everything else. We have a horror movie review going up every week. Sometimes we do some extras, but right now you get one a week. And remember that we're also working our way through Tales from the Crypt that goes up every weekend. The first episode back after Christmas was this past Sunday. And we're still in the middle of season 2, so check that out as well if you want. But on that, guys, keep watching scary movies. We'll see you next time.